Eleanor Ellie Davies was leaving Stirling Manor for the last time. Her mother was gone, and she had absolutely no reason to stay any longer. Sebastian Bash Stirling ran after her into the pouring rain and asked the question he knew he shouldn't: "Why did you stay so long?" And she, with tears mingling with the rain, answered with something that shattered 300 years of silence. "Because I was waiting for you. For 300 years, I've been waiting." This is the story of how one simple question revealed a promise made back in 1725, of how an executed soldier and a lady who died in childbirth came back, and of how, even separated by 3 centuries, some souls recognize each other instantly. If you've ever felt like you know someone you've just met, then stay tuned, because what you're about to hear will make you question everything you think you know about coincidence. 3 years before that rainy night, Eleanor Davies was 32 years old and had nothing but a mother dying of cancer. No money for treatment, no family to help. Just a mother who had 6 months to live, and medical bills that Ellie could never afford. Working as a house cleaner, Ellie had worked in a dozen different houses in the last 8 years. Always the same routine: arrive, clean, leave. No one saw her. No one asked. She was invisible, like most housekeepers in Boston. But then, in April of 2022, the employment agency called with a different proposition: Stirling Manor in Beacon Hill, the most expensive neighborhood in Boston. Salary 3 times the normal rate. The employer was the CEO of a hotel empire, 15 hotels in the United States and the Bahamas. A busy man, divorced twice, lived alone, needed someone to keep the house running. Ellie accepted. Not because the salary was good, but because she needed anything that would pay her mother's hospital bills. On her first day, she arrived at 7 in the morning. The mansion was huge, 3 stories, 10 bedrooms, swimming pool, garden, all glass and marble, cold, modern, soulless. Sebastian Stirling was in the living room when Ellie entered. He was 38 years old, tall, dark hair, deep brown eyes, impeccable black suit, serious face, firm voice, the kind of man who commanded boardrooms. Without raising his voice, he looked at Ellie for exactly 3 seconds, nodded, and said simply, "The agency has already explained your responsibilities. I work from home 3 days a week. The rest, I'm traveling. I don't need conversation. I just need the house clean, and my coffee ready at 6 a.m. sharp." Ellie said, "Understood, Mr. Stirling," and Sebastian left. But something had happened in those 3 seconds, something that Ellie couldn't explain, something that made her heart race in a way it hadn't in years, maybe never. When she looked into his eyes, she didn't see a stranger. She saw someone she knew deeply, impossibly, and more than that, she felt something break inside her chest, as if a part of her that had been waiting for a long time had finally come home. Ellie shook her head, thought she was being ridiculous. It was just exhaustion, stress, sick mother, lack of sleep. It couldn't be anything more. But that night, when she returned to the small apartment she shared with her mother in Dorchester, she couldn't sleep because she dreamed. She dreamed of a garden she had never seen, with a man in an old military uniform, with herself wearing a white colonial dress, with words whispered in Old English, with a promise: "I'll find you in every life. Wait for me. I'll wait for you, always." Ellie woke up at 3 in the morning, sweating and with her heart pounding, as if she had run a 10-kilometer race. And the scariest thing wasn't the dream. It was that Ellie had had this dream before, hundreds of times, since she was a child, but she had never seen the man's face. Until now. Until Sebastian Stirling. In the first 3 months working at the mansion, Ellie kept her distance, did her job, cleaned, cooked, disappeared before Sebastian got home, avoided eye contact, avoided conversation, because every time she looked at him, she felt the same thing, recognition, as if she knew every line of his face, as if she had already touched those hands, as if she had already heard that voice say, "I love you." But that was impossible. Ellie had never seen that man before in her life. Or had she? Sebastian, on the other hand, didn't seem to notice Ellie. He treated her as he treated all employees, polite, distant, indifferent. He had more important things to worry about, hotels to manage, meetings to attend, ex-wives to avoid. But then, in July, something changed. Ellie was cleaning the library on the second floor. It was a Friday. Sebastian was supposed to be traveling, but he came back early because of a cancelled meeting. He entered the library without warning. Ellie was on top of a ladder, cleaning the high shelves. "Good morning," said Sebastian, distracted, looking for a book. Ellie turned around too quickly, lost her balance. The ladder swayed. Sebastian ran, held the ladder, held Ellie. For 3 seconds, his hands were on her arms, skin against skin. And then it happened. Sebastian felt something he had never felt in his life. A chill that started in his hands and ran through his entire body. Not a chill from the cold, a chill of recognition, as if his body knew something that his mind didn't understand. He looked at Ellie. She looked at him. And for an impossible moment, Sebastian was absolutely certain that he knew this woman. Not from 3 months of work, but from much, much longer. Ellie got off the ladder with trembling hands. "Sorry, Mr. Sterling," she said, voice low. Sebastian released her arms, took a step back, said, "Be more careful," and left the library. But that night, alone in his room, Sebastian couldn't stop thinking about that touch, about that chill, about that impossible feeling that he had held that woman before. He told himself he was being ridiculous, worked too much, slept too little. He was stressed, but then he dreamed. He dreamed of a colonial garden, with a woman in a white dress, with himself wearing a Spanish soldier's uniform, with a promise whispered under the stars. "I'll find you in every life." Sebastian woke up at 4 in the morning, with his heart pounding uncontrollably, and for the first time in 38 years, he cried without knowing why. Have you ever touched someone and felt like you had touched that person 1,000 times before? Have you ever looked into a stranger's eyes and been sure they weren't a stranger? If so, you know what Sebastian and Ellie were feeling. If not, keep listening, because what comes next will make you believe in the impossible. After that Friday, something changed between Sebastian and Ellie. They didn't talk, but he started watching her, the way she moved, the way she spoke, the way she smiled when she thought no one was watching. And the more Sebastian watched Ellie, the more he felt like he knew her, not from memories of this life, but from something deeper, something his rational mind couldn't quite process. Ellie, in turn, started avoiding Sebastian even more, because whenever he walked into a room, she felt like 300 years of waiting were about to end. And that scared her more than anything. 2 months after the incident in the library, in September, Ellie's mum took a turn for the worse. The cancer had spread. The doctors gave her 3 weeks, maybe a month. Ellie needed money, more money, for palliative care, so her mum could pass without pain. She could have asked Sebastian for a raise. He would have given it to her. But Ellie didn't ask, because it wasn't about money. It never was. It was about being near him, even if he never knew why. Ellie worked 12 hours at Sterling Manor, then went straight to the hospital, stayed with her mom until midnight, went home, slept 3 hours, and started all over again. She lost 20 pounds in a month. The dark circles under her eyes grew deeper. Her hands trembled from exhaustion. Sebastian noticed. "Are you all right?" he asked one morning, when Ellie brought his coffee at 6 a.m. Ellie said, "Yes, sir, just a little tired." Sebastian didn't press it, but that night, he increased her salary by 50%, without asking, Without explaining, when Ellie saw the deposit in her bank account, she cried because she understood something she didn't want to understand. Sebastian cared about her, even without knowing why, even without understanding, just as she cared for him, making his coffee exactly how he liked it, keeping the house exactly how he needed it, staying when she could have left 1,000 times. In October, 3 years after Ellie started working for him, her mother passed. At 6 in the morning on a Tuesday, Ellie was holding her hand. Her mother opened her eyes one last time and said something Ellie would never forget. "You found him, my darling, the one you've always dreamed of. Now you can rest." And then she passed. Ellie stayed at the hospital until noon, arranged the funeral, paid the bills, and then she went to Sterling Manor because she had nowhere else to go. Sebastian was home, working in his office. He saw Ellie walk in, saw her face, her red eyes, the way she moved as if she were on autopilot. "What happened?" he asked, and for the first time in 3 years, there was genuine concern in his voice. "My mother passed away this morning," Ellie said, her voice devoid of emotion. Sebastian was silent for 3 seconds. Then he said, "I'm so sorry. Take as much time as you need." Ellie shook her head. "I don't need time. I need to work." She went upstairs to clean the bedrooms. Sebastian stayed in his office, but he couldn't concentrate because something inside him was screaming to go after her, to hold her, to tell her that everything would be all right, as if he'd done it 1,000 times before. At 7 in the evening, Ellie finished her work, grabbed her purse, and left. Sebastian heard the door close, and he felt like a part of him had just walked out. 2 days later, Ellie came back, worked normally, didn't talk about her mother, didn't cry, just did her job. But something had changed. Ellie was quieter, more distant, as if the only reason for her to stay had disappeared. A week after the funeral, on a Friday, Ellie was cleaning the kitchen when Sebastian walked in. He hesitated, then said, "Ellie, I need to ask you something." She turned around. "Yes, sir. Why are you still here?" Ellie blinked. "I don't understand." Sebastian took a step forward. "You've worked here for 3 years. I've never been an easy employer. I pay well. But there are dozens of better jobs in Beacon Hill. Houses with families, with children, places more alive. Why have you stayed?" Ellie opened her mouth, closed it, looked at the floor. "I needed the money. For my mother." Sebastian shook his head. "I've raised your salary 7 times in 3 years. You never asked, never accepted without questioning, never used it as a reason to stay. So why, Ellie? Why did you really stay?" And Ellie felt something break inside her. 3 years of silence, 3 years of pretending she didn't feel anything, 3 years of waiting, 300 years of waiting. She looked at Sebastian. Tears started to fall. "Because when I first looked at you, I felt like I'd come home after 300 years of being lost." Sebastian froze. Ellie continued, her voice breaking. "I know it sounds crazy. I know you'll think I'm insane, but ever since I was a child, I've dreamed of a garden, with a man in an old military uniform, with a promise, I'll wait for you, always. And I never saw the man's face until the day I met you." Sebastian couldn't breathe. Ellie wiped her tears. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. I'll go." She grabbed her purse and walked out the kitchen door. Sebastian stood there for exactly 5 seconds. Then something inside him broke. He ran after her. Ellie was walking fast through the garden. It started to rain. Heavy rain, sudden rain. Sebastian caught up to her near the gate. He grabbed her arm. "Wait." Ellie turned around. Rain mixed with tears on her face. And Sebastian asked the question that would change everything. "Why did you really stay, Ellie?" And she, with 300 years of waiting breaking in her voice, answered, "Because I've waited for you. 300 years I've waited." The world stopped. Sebastian let go of her arm, took a step back, looked at Ellie as if he were seeing a ghost, because those words, "I've waited 300 years," he'd heard them before. Not in this life, but in dreams, in nightmares, in memories that shouldn't exist. Ellie turned and started to run, ran out of Stirling Manor, into the street, in the rain, and Sebastian stood in the garden, wet, in shock, his heart pounding as if he'd woken up from a 3-century sleep, because somehow impossible, insane, completely illogical. He believed her. Sebastian spent the entire weekend trying to convince himself that he was crazy, that Ellie was crazy, that it was all coincidence, stress, imagination. He couldn't believe in reincarnation. He was a businessman, rational, logical. He didn't believe in soulmates. He didn't believe in destiny. He didn't believe in anything that couldn't be measured, calculated, proven. But then why, when Ellie said 300 years, did something inside him scream, yes? Why, when she ran away, did every fiber of his being scream to run after her? Why, every night since she left, had he been dreaming of 1725? On Monday, Eleanor didn't show up for work. Sebastian waited until 8 in the morning, then called her number. It went straight to voicemail. He called the employment agency. He asked if they had heard from Eleanor Davies. The receptionist said she resigned on Friday. She said she wouldn't be back. Sebastian hung up the phone, and for the first time in 20 years, he didn't know what to do. Eleanor had vanished, just like in the dreams, just like in 1725. And Sebastian felt like history was repeating itself, like he'd lost her again. What would you have done? If someone told you they'd waited 300 years for you, would you believe them, or would you run? Sebastian chose a third option. He went after her. On Tuesday, Sebastian hired a private investigator. He gave him Eleanor's full name, the address she'd given on her employment form, and he pleaded, "Find her." The investigator took 2 days. On Thursday, he called. "I found her. She's living in a rented room in Dorchester, works at a laundromat. You want the address?" Sebastian wrote it down, thanked him, hung up, and then he just stared at the paper with the address for an entire hour, because he didn't know what to do with it. He didn't know what to say if he found her. He didn't know how to explain that ever since she left. He couldn't sleep without dreaming about her dressed in colonial white, without waking up with her name on his lips, without feeling like a part of him had been ripped away. On Friday, Sebastian finally went. Dorchester, one of the more modest neighborhoods in Boston, a tapestry of lives woven close together, a world away from Beacon Hill. Sebastian parked the car in front of the address, a 3-story building, peeling paint, cracked windows. He walked up to the second floor, knocked on the door of number 12. No one answered. Sebastian waited, knocked again. The door next door opened. An elderly woman peered at him suspiciously. "If you're looking for the young lady who lives there, she works until 9 at night, laundromat 2 blocks down the street." Sebastian thanked her, went downstairs, walked 2 blocks, found the laundromat, and through the window, he saw Eleanor. She was folding clothes, hair tied back, face tired, plain uniform, moving mechanically, like she was on autopilot. Sebastian stood outside for 10 minutes, just watching, and then he noticed something that broke him completely. Eleanor was crying, silently, while she folded the clothes, tears falling onto the fabric, as if she'd lost something she could never recover. Sebastian pushed the door open. The bell jingled. Eleanor looked up, saw him, froze. For 3 seconds, neither of them moved, neither of them breathed. Then Eleanor said, voice choked, "You shouldn't be here." Sebastian took a step forward. "I know. Why did you come?" "Because I can't stop dreaming about you." Eleanor closed her eyes. Tears fell faster. Sebastian continued, "Because every night I dream of 1725, of a garden, of a soldier's uniform, of you in a white dress, of a promise that I made and couldn't keep. Eleanor opened her eyes, looked at him with a mixture of hope and fear, and Sebastian said the words that changed everything. I think you're right. I think we've met before. A long, long time ago. The air rushed out of Eleanor's lungs. She gripped the table to steady herself. Sebastian approached, took her hand, and for the second time felt that jolt of recognition. Like every cell in his body knew that this hand had been held 1,000 times before. "Show me," he said. "Show me what you see in the dreams." Eleanor trembled. "Are you sure?" "No, but I need to know." Eleanor nodded, released his hand, went to the small locker in the back of the laundromat, unlocked it, took out an old backpack. She came back, opened the backpack, and pulled out something wrapped in a white cloth. When she unwrapped it, Sebastian saw a locket, ancient, very ancient, tarnished silver, thin chain, and in the center engraved 2 intertwined letters, DS, and on the other side, ED. Sebastian took the locket with trembling hands, turned it over. On the back was a date, 1725. The world began to spin. Eleanor said, softly, "This locket has been in my family for generations. No one knows where it came from. My great-grandmother said it was passed down from mother to daughter since the 18th century, that it belonged to a woman named Eleanor Davies." Sebastian couldn't take his eyes off the locket. Eleanor continued, "When I was 10 years old, my mother gave me this and told me the story. Eleanor Davies fell in love with a soldier, Daniel Sterling. Her family condemned him to death. She died in childbirth 3 months later, and before he was executed, she gave him the locket with a promise engraved inside." Sebastian opened the locket. Inside, in tiny letters, was written in Old English, "I'll find you in every life. I'll wait for you." Sebastian's legs gave way. He sat down in the nearest chair, holding the locket, reading and rereading the words. "I'll find you in every life. I'll wait for you. Daniel Sterling. DS Sebastian Sterling, Eleanor Davies. ED Eleanor Ellie Davies." It couldn't be a coincidence. The names, the locket, the dreams, the date. 1725. Everything fit together in a way that defied all logic. Sebastian raised his eyes to Eleanor and asked the only question that mattered. "Do you think we're them? That we've come back?" Eleanor knelt in front of him, took his hands in hers. "I don't think. I know. From the first day I saw you, I knew. My soul recognized yours, and I've waited 3 years for you to wake up too." Sebastian felt tears streaming down his face, tears that hadn't fallen in decades. How is this possible? How can we be the same? I don't know, but look at this. Look at the locket, at the names, at the dreams we both have, at the fact that when I touch you, I feel like I've touched you 1,000 times before. How do you explain that without accepting the impossible? Sebastian had no answer, because there was no logical answer. There was no rational explanation. Just the impossible truth. They had met before, in 1725. They had loved each other. They had made a promise, and 300 years later, the promise had brought them back. Some people will pause here. They'll need a moment to process the impossible, and that's okay, because what comes now isn't just about believing. It's about seeing. It's about reliving. It's about understanding that some connections are so deep that not even death can erase them. The next morning, Ellie did something she never thought she would. She called a hypnotherapist, Dr. Evelyn Reed, 55 years old, a specialist in past life regression. Thousands of patients over 20 years. She thought she'd seen it all, or she thought she had. Ellie explained the situation over the phone, the dreams, the locket, the names, Bash. Dr. Reed listened in silence. Then she said, "I can see you today at 3 p.m., but I need to be honest. 90% of the cases I see are self-suggestion. People who want to believe in past lives so much that they create false memories. If that's what you're looking for, I'm not the right person. Ellie replied, I don't want to believe in anything. I want to know the truth. Then come in. Let's find out together. At 3 p.m., Ellie walked into Dr. Reed's office. A small office. Simple. Books on hypnosis and regression on the walls. A reclining armchair in the center. The doctor was a petite woman, graying hair, sharp eyes. She greeted Ellie with a firm handshake. Before we begin, I need you to understand something. Regression hypnosis doesn't prove reincarnation. It can reveal suppressed memories. It can access the subconscious, but I can't guarantee that what you see is real or imagination. Understand? Ellie nodded. I understand. Then let's begin. Ellie lay back in the armchair. Dr. Reed began to speak, calm voice, measured instructions to relax, to close her eyes, to breathe deeply. Within 10 minutes, Ellie was in a trance. The doctor began the questions. Are you seeing anything? Yes, said Ellie, her voice distant. What do you see? A garden, Old English, stone, roses. Evening, there are candles lit in antique lanterns. Where are you? I'm standing, wearing a uniform, British, military and late 1700s. And what are you doing? Waiting for him. For whom? For Bash. And then the scene changed. Ellie gasped. What happened? Asked Dr. Reed. He's arrived. He's here. Scarlet coat, gold braid, sword at his side. He looks so sad. Why is he sad? Because tomorrow he's being sent away. He's being shipped off to war. He won't be coming back. Ellie's voice cracked. Doctor, Reed leaned forward. Continue. What's happening now? He's holding me. We're in the garden. It's the last time we'll see each other. His regiment is leaving at dawn. He's being sent to the colonies because we love each other, because I'm the daughter of a lord, and he's just a soldier because we crossed lines that we shouldn't have crossed. What are you saying to him? I'm promising. I'm saying that I'll find him in every life. No matter how long it takes, no matter how many lives I need to live, I'll find him. And what is he saying? That he'll wait, that he'll recognize me, that no matter how many centuries pass, he'll know when I return. Dr. Reed asked the next question carefully. Are you doing anything to mark this promise? Yes. He has a small knife. We're making marks on our left shoulders. Crescent moon shapes, blood mingled, souls united, forever. And after, I give him a locket, silver, with our initials, BS and ED, Bash Sterling, Eleanor Davies, and the promise engraved inside. I'll find you in every life. I'll wait for you, always. Ellie's voice was trembling now, tears streaming down her face while still in the trance. What's happening now? Asked the doctor. Dawn has arrived. Soldiers are leading him away. I'm screaming, trying to run after him. My father is holding me back. I looked back one last time and promised with my eyes what I couldn't say with word. I'm coming back to you. And then the ship sails. The horizon claims him. Heartbreak, emptiness, and then nothing. Ellie sobbed, her whole body shaking. Dr. Reed waited a few seconds, then asked, is there anything else you need to see? And Ellie said something that made the doctor freeze. Bash. 6 months later, consumption. He died, alone, calling my name, Ellie, Ellie, but I wasn't there to save him. I'm going to bring you back now, said Dr. Reed, her voice firm. I'm going to count from 5 to 1. When I get to 1, you'll wake up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ellie opened her eyes, sat up, and burst into uncontrollable sobs. Dr. Reed watched her in silence. She had done thousands of regression sessions in 20 years, but she had never seen anything like this. So detailed, so visceral, so real. After 5 minutes, Ellie managed to speak. It was real. I saw it. I felt it. It wasn't imagination. It was memory. The doctor nodded slowly. The level of detail you provided, the emotions, the consistency of the narrative, it's unusual. Very unusual. Ellie wiped away her tears, looked at her. Do you believe in reincarnation? The doctor hesitated, then said, honestly, I don't know, but I believe in what I saw here today. And what I saw was a woman reliving something too profound to be just imagination. Ellie stood up. I need you to do a session with Bash. The man you mentioned? Yes. If he sees the same thing, the same details, the same memories, then it can't be coincidence. Dr. Reed nodded. Bring him in. Let's find out. 2 days later, Bash was sitting in the same armchair. Ellie had explained everything. Her session, what she saw, what she felt, and asked Bash to do the same. Bash agreed, not because he doubted, but because he needed to see it too, needed to confirm that he wasn't crazy. Dr. Reed put him in a trance in the same way. Calm voice, deep breathing, relaxation, and then asked the question, are you seeing anything? Yes, said Bash, his voice distant. What do you see? A garden, evening, candles, old stone. It's beautiful, but sad. Udida, where are you? I'm running, scarlet coat, sword banging against my side. I need to get there before it's too late. Before what is too late? Before they take her, before the ship sails. Who is she? Ellie, my love. The woman I'm losing. The woman I will never forget. Dr. Reed looked at Ellie. She was sitting in the chair next to him, tears already falling. Continue, said the doctor. What's happening? I'm holding her. For the last time, I'm promising her, saying that I'll find her. In every life, no matter how long it takes. And you? What are you saying? That I'll wait, that I'll recognize him, always. Are you doing anything to mark this promise? Yes, a knife, marks, left shoulder, crescent moon, blood mingled, souls bound forever. Dr. Reed was writing everything down. Every detail was identical to what Ellie had described. What else is happening? I'm giving her the locket de silver with our initials, BS and ED, Diego Navarro, Eleanor Ellie Davies, and the promise etched in time. I'll find you in every life. Wait for me. I'll wait for you, always. Ellie began to weep, still in a trance, but crying as if reliving the pain from 300 years ago. What's happening now, Ellie? Asked Dr. Reyes gently. The dawn, she choked out. They're taking him. I try to run after him. My father holds me back. Sebastian looks back and promises with his eyes, promises he'll return. And then, a firing squad. I hear the shots. I fall to my knees. I scream. But he's already gone. Already gone. Ellie's voice broke completely. Is there anything else you need to see, Ellie? Dr. Reyes asked softly. And Ellie whispered, her voice almost inaudible. 3 months later, I'm in labor. The baby, our baby. But something is wrong. So much pain. So much blood. The baby is lost. I'm dying. And all I can think is, Sebastian, I waited, but you didn't come back. Ellie sobbed uncontrollably. Sebastian couldn't bear it. He rose, knelt beside the armchair, held her hand. I came back, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Ellie, I came back, 300 years later, but I came back. Dr. Reyes gently brought Ellie back from the trance. When she opened her eyes, she saw Sebastian kneeling beside her, holding her hand, crying, and Ellie understood. He had seen it all too. The same details, the same story, the same promise. Dr. Reyes sat back. She remained silent for a full minute. Then she said something she had never said in 20 years of practice. I don't know how to explain what I've just witnessed. 2 patients with no prior communication about details, seeing the same memory, the same events, the same words, the same emotions. This isn't self-suggestion. This is something else entirely. Sebastian looked at Ellie. Ellie looked at him. and for the first time in 300 years, the doubt vanished. They were Diego and Elena. They had been separated by execution and death in childbirth, and now they had found each other again. If you haven't felt goosebumps yet, comment goosebumps, because what comes next will show you that some promises don't die, not even with death. After the hypnosis sessions, Sebastian and Ellie became inseparable, not as employer and employee, not as strangers, but as souls who had finally found each other again. Sebastian took Ellie back to Stirling Manor, not to work, but to live in the guest room, with all due respect, with the utmost care, because he knew he had to do things differently this time. In 1725, he had been a coward. He had hidden their love. He had allowed social class to tear them apart. In this life, he would not repeat the mistake. In the days that followed, they talked for hours and hours, sharing dreams they'd had since childhood, details that only made sense now. Ellie confessed that she had always been afraid of dawn. She never knew why, but now she understood, because it was at dawn that Diego had died. Sebastian shared that he had always had nightmares about childbirth, about blood, about loss. It never made sense because he was a man, but now he understood, because that was how Ellie had died, alone, calling for him. They shared their scars. Sebastian showed his left shoulder, shaped like a crescent moon. He always thought it was a birthmark. Ellie showed hers, exactly in the same place, exactly the same shape. They weren't birthmarks. They were marks of a promise made 300 years ago. But despite all the certainty, despite all the proof, there was still resistance. Not from Ellie. She had always known, always accepted. The resistance came from Sebastian, because a part of him still fought against the impossible, still tried to find a logical explanation, still feared what it would mean to fully accept it, because if he accepted it, if he really believed, then he would have to face something terrifying, the possibility of losing her again. In 1725, they had loved each other and been separated by death. What would stop history from repeating itself? Ellie saw the fear in his eyes, and one night, lying on opposite sides of the room, she asked, "You're scared, aren't you?" Sebastian didn't deny it. "I'm terrified." Of what? That history will repeat itself, that something will take you away from me again. Ellie got up, walked across the room, sat beside him. "Sebastian, 300 years ago, you promised to find me in every life, and you kept your promise. You came back, I came back. We found each other, and this time, there's no lady, no execution, no rules to tear us apart. But what if there's something else? An accident, an illness, destiny?" Ellie took his face in her hands, looked into his eyes. "Then let's love while we can, and if death comes, let's promise again, and find each other in the next life, and the next, until finally, the universe leaves us in peace." Sebastian felt something break inside him. The last resistance, the last fear. And for the first time in 300 years, he allowed himself to love without fear. He pulled Ellie into his arms, kissed her, not as strangers, but as souls who had kissed 1,000 times in 1,000 lives. And when they broke apart, he whispered the words that Diego had promised 3 centuries ago. "I'll find you in every life, and I finally found you." Ellie responded with the words that Elena Davies had promised in 1725. "I'll wait for you, always." And here you are. And 300 years of waiting finally ended. This story shouldn't exist. 2 identical names separated by 300 years. A locket that crossed centuries. 2 identical memories revealed in hypnosis. 2 scars in the same place. And a love that death couldn't extinguish, but it does exist, and it needs to be told. Sebastian knew there was still one thing he needed to do, a final piece of proof. something that would leave absolutely no doubt. He needed to find historical evidence. The following Monday, Sebastian went to the Massachusetts Archives, the building that holds historical documents from even before the colonial era. He requested access to records from 1725, specifically records of executions during the Revolutionary War. The librarian led him to a room of ancient documents. She asked what he was looking for exactly. Sebastian Sterling, a soldier, executed in July of 1725. The librarian frowned. She returned 15 minutes later with 3 record books, bound in antique leather, yellowed pages. Sebastian opened the first book. He flipped through page after page. Nothing. The second book. Halfway through, nothing. And then on page 123 of the second book, he found it. Sebastian Sterling, soldier in the Continental Army, executed by firing squad on July 15, 1725. Charge: prohibited relationship with Eleanor Davies, daughter of a prominent Tory supporter. Sentence approved by members of the Massachusetts Committee of Safety. Sebastian's hands trembled. He snapped a photo of the document with his cell phone, and then he asked the librarian, "Is there any record of Eleanor de Mendoza?" The woman returned with another book. Records of births and deaths of the colonial nobility. Sebastian flipped through it, and on page 87, he found it. Eleanor Maria de Mendoza y Castillo, born March 3rd, 1703, only daughter of Lady Antonia de Mendoza, passed away on October 23rd, 1725. Cause: complications during childbirth. Infant also deceased, no record of the child's father. Sebastian had to sit down because it was all there. Every detail, every name, every date, everything, exactly as they had seen it in the hypnosis sessions. Daniel Sterling, executed on July 15th. Eleanor de Mendoza, deceased on October 23rd. 3 months later, exactly as Eleanor had seen in the regression. It wasn't fantasy. It wasn't imagination. It was real history. Documented. Archived. Sebastian thanked the librarian, left the archive, and called Eleanor. "I need you to come with me. Now." "Where to?" "To the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, in the Fenway." "Why?" "Because if Daniel and Eleanor existed, if they were who we think they were, then there might be something more, something that proves it, once and for all." An hour later, Sebastian and Eleanor were at the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, one of the largest museums in the United States. Dozens of galleries, thousands of artifacts from different eras. They searched for 2 hours, gallery by gallery, portrait by portrait, artifact by artifact. And then, in Gallery 23, the section dedicated to colonial portrait, they found it. A portrait, large, oil on canvas, dated 1724. The plaque read, "Portrait of Eleanor de Mendoza, daughter of Lady Antonia de Mendoza. Artist unknown, 1724. Eleanor de Mendoza was painted in a garden, wearing a white dress, her hair loose, and beside her, partially visible in the shadows, a man in a military uniform." Eleanor Davies took a step forward, looked at the portrait, and froze, because the woman's face in the portrait was identical to hers. Same eyes, same face shape, same features, and the man in the shadows. Sebastian recognized the profile. It was him, exactly him. He approached the painting, looked closer, and saw something that made his heart stop. On the painted woman's left shoulder, partially visible through the low-cut dress, there was a mark, a scar, crescent moon-shaped, the same one that Eleanor Davies had, the same one that Sebastian had, and in the lower corner of the painting, almost invisible, there was an inscription in tiny letters, "Daniel and Eleanor, eternal love, 1724. Eleanor started to cry, not tears of sadness, tears of relief, of absolute certainty, of validation, because there it was, the proof that no skeptic could deny, a 300-year-old portrait, with their faces, with their scars, with their names. Sebastian pulled her into his arms, and they both stood there, in front of the painting, weeping, because 300 years ago, Daniel and Eleanor had posed for that portrait, a year before the execution, a year before the tragedy, and now, 300 years later, Sebastian and Eleanor were seeing proof that they had existed, that they had loved each other, that the promise was real. Would you believe it? If you saw a 300-year-old portrait with your face, with your marks, with your name, would you believe you had lived before? Sebastian took photos of the painting, of the historical document, of everything, because he knew the world would doubt, that people would call it a coincidence, a hoax, madness. But he didn't care because he had all the evidence he needed, the identical names, the locket with the date, the hypnosis sessions with identical memories, the historical documents confirming the deaths, and now the portrait, a portrait that showed that Daniel and Eleanor weren't just history, they were real. That night, Sebastian made the most important decision of his life. He gathered his entire family, his parents, his 2 ex-wives, his closest friends, all for a dinner at Stirling Manor, and in front of everyone, he introduced Eleanor, not as the housekeeper, but as the woman he loved. There was silence, looks of judgment. His mother whispered to him, "She's a housekeeper. Sebastian, you're the CEO of an empire. This won't work." Sebastian looked at his mother and said something that silenced the entire room. 300 years ago, I was a poor soldier, and she was the daughter of a lady, and her mother condemned me to death because we crossed social class barriers. In this life, I won't make the same mistake. Eleanor isn't just a housekeeper, she's my soulmate. And if you can't accept that, then you don't need to be in my life. His mother blinked, surprised. Are you serious? Completely serious. I love her, and I'm going to marry her, with or without your approval. There were murmurs, judgment, but Sebastian didn't care, because in 1725, he had been a coward. He had hidden their love. He had allowed society to tear them apart. In this life, he would choose differently. 2 weeks later, Sebastian proposed to Eleanor, not with a diamond ring, but with the locket from 1725, with the promise engraved, "I'll find you in every life. I'll wait for you, always." Eleanor said yes, not because she needed financial security, not because she wanted social status, but because 300 years ago, she had made a promise, and now, finally, she could fulfill it. They were married 3 months later, in a small, intimate ceremony at the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, in the courtyard. Dr. Reyes was there, witnessing, still processing the impossible she had witnessed in her office. And when the officiant asked, "Sebastian Sterling, do you take Eleanor Davies to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Sebastian replied, "I do, in this life, and in all the ones to come." And when he asked Eleanor, "Eleanor Davies, do you take Sebastian Sterling to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Eleanor replied, with tears in her eyes, "I do. 300 years of waiting, and finally, I do." They kissed, and the moment their lips touched, they both felt something impossible. For a second, they weren't Sebastian and Eleanor, they were Daniel and Eleanor in the garden in 1725, before the execution, before the tragedy, and the promise, made 300 years ago under colonial stars, was finally fulfilled. Today, 5 years after that wedding, Sebastian and Eleanor live together at Stirling Manor in Beacon Hill. Eleanor is no longer a housekeeper. She is a co-owner of Sebastian's hotel empire, not because he gave it to her, but because they built it together. The transformation didn't happen overnight. Sebastian taught Ellie about hotel management. Ellie brought a perspective he'd never had. The perspective of someone who'd worked as a maid, someone who knew what the employees really needed, someone who understood dignity. Together, they transformed the empire, not just in profitability, but in humanity. All the hotels now offered living wages, comprehensive benefits, respectful treatment, because Ellie never forgot where she came from, and Sebastian never forgot that in another life. He was the poor one, and she was the rich one. The positions had reversed through time, but the love remained constant. They had 2 children, Jake and Madison, names chosen with purpose. Jake for the soldier who promised to find her, Madison for Eleanor of old, who promised to wait. And Sebastian sometimes looks at them and wonders if Jake is the baby they lost in 1725, returning, giving them a second chance. There's no way to know, but there is a way to feel. And when he holds Jake in his arms, he feels like he's holding something he lost 300 years ago, something that's finally come back. Ellie feels the same. When she nurses Madison, she sometimes has flashes, visions of another time, another baby that didn't survive, and she feels as if this time, the universe has given her a second chance to be a mother, a chance to make right what was taken from her 3 centuries ago. The locket now sits in a glass case in the living room, next to the portrait that the museum allowed them to reproduce. Jake and Eleanor, 1724, eternal love. Visitors to Stirling Manor always ask about the portrait, about the locket, and Sebastian and Ellie tell the story, not to prove anything, but to remind themselves of how much it cost to get here. 300 years, an execution, a death in childbirth, 3 lives lost in 1725. Jake, Eleanor, and the baby who never took a breath. But the promise survived, engraved in silver, marked on skin, kept safe in souls that refused to forget. Dr. Abrams became a close friend of the family. She wrote an article about the case, without names, but with all the details. 2 patients, same memories, same dates, historical documentation confirming everything. The article was published in a journal of parapsychology and generated international debate. Skeptics said it was a fraud. Believers said it was definitive proof of reincarnation. But Sebastian and Ellie didn't care about the debate, because for them, it wasn't about proving anything to the world. It was about living the truth that their souls already knew. They didn't need anyone to believe. They just needed each other. 5 years after the wedding, Jake turned 4, and he started saying strange things. One night, looking at the portrait in the living room, he pointed to the man in the military uniform and said, "That was me." Before, Ellie froze. Sebastian froze. "What did you say?" "Son," Jake, with the innocence of a 4-year-old, said, "I was a soldier, and you were a princess, and they killed me because I loved you." Tears began to fall from Ellie's face, because Jake had never heard the full story, had never been told about Jake Sterling and Eleanor. He was too young to understand, but somehow he knew. Sebastian knelt down in front of his son, looked into his eyes and saw something familiar, something ancient, something he recognized. "How do you know that?" "Jake," the boy shrugged. "I just know. I remember. The garden, the stars, you crying, and promising you'd come back." Ellie had to leave the room because she understood something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Jake wasn't just their son, he was the baby they lost in 1725, returning with intact memories. Sebastian followed Ellie, found her in the bedroom, crying. "He's back," she whispered. "Our baby's back. 300 years later, he's back." Sebastian hugged her and cried with her, because the promise wasn't just between Jake and Eleanor, it was between all of them, a family separated by death and reunited through time. In the years that followed, Jake continued to share fragments of memories, Small details he shouldn't know. Names of places that no longer exist. Old English words that modern children don't use. And every time he shared something, Sebastian and Ellie understood more deeply that this wasn't just about the two of them. It was about an entire family being given a second chance to live what was taken from them 300 years ago. And every night, before going to sleep, Sebastian and Ellie look at each other's scars. Crescent moon shape, left shoulder, marks of a promise that spanned 300 years. Sometimes Sebastian traces her scar with his finger, slowly, with reverence, and whispers, "I found you." And Ellie traces his scar the same way, and whispers back, "I knew you'd come back." They are small rituals, but they mean everything, because they are daily reminders that some connections are deeper than any one life, that some promises don't die with death, and that true love always, always finds a way back. On anniversaries, they visit the public garden, the garden where they got married, the same garden where Jake and Eleanor said goodbye for the last time in 1725. And standing in that garden, holding each other's hands, they renew the promise, "I'll find you in every life, I'll wait for you, always." Not because they need to, but because they want to. Because if there are more lives after this one, they want to make sure they'll find each other again and again and again, until time loses its meaning and they can finally rest together forever. Have you ever felt like you know someone you just met? Have you ever looked into a stranger's eyes and been absolutely sure that they weren't a stranger? If so, maybe it's not a coincidence. Maybe it's a promise made long ago, in another life, waiting to be fulfilled in this one. And if you have someone like that in your life, someone your soul recognized at first sight, don't let them go, because it might take 300 years to find them again. Sebastian waited 3 years for Ellie to reveal that she had waited 300, and when he finally asked why she stayed, the answer broke centuries of silence. "Because I waited for you. 300 years I waited for you." And that answer wasn't about 3 years working at Stirling Manor, it was about 300 years waiting for a promise to be kept. Jake promised to find her in every life. Eleanor promised to wait in every one. And in 2025, finally, promise fulfilled. Did this story touch you? Do you know someone who has felt an inexplicable connection with another person? What soulmate story have you never told? Because each of us has someone, somewhere, sometime, waiting, promising, searching. And maybe, just maybe, you've already found them. You just don't realize it yet, but your soul knows. It always knew. It's just waiting for you to wake up. Like Sebastian Bash, Stirling woke up. Like Eleanor Ellie Davies always knew. 300 years, a tragic execution, a death in childbirth, and a promise that even death couldn't erase. "I'll find you in every life. Wait for me. I'll wait for you. Always." They promised in 1725, they fulfilled it in 2025. And if their story proves anything, it's that true love doesn't have an expiration date, doesn't have a time limit, doesn't have a boundary of life. It just waits. And when the time is right, when the souls are ready, it finds its way back. It always finds its way. Always.